Hello, my good friends. 2.5 years ago, I launched my podcast, Leadership Synergized, with a focus on providing opportunities for you, today's leaders, to gain knowledge from individuals who have impacted lives in a positive and significant manner while serving others through a strengths-focused and values-based foundation. With this vision in mind, I am thrilled for you to have the opportunity to learn from the one and only Chris Robinson, the Executive Vice President of Maxwell Leadership. During this episode, we will be diving into leadership mastery with an individual who has truly mastered leadership, an individual who has earned the respect of highly effective leaders around the world and is now adding a title to his resume, that of author. That's right, Chris Robinson is now an author. Not only will you gain knowledge from Chris's experience and lessons learned in this episode as a leader, but you will also be rewarded with the opportunity to gain his insight that has now become his first book, Drift to Drive, a high achiever's guide to breaking the chains of complacency. I hope, my friends, that you're ready, and if you are, let's go meet and hear from the amazing Chris Robinson. Good day, my friends, and welcome to this episode of Leadership Synergized, where we have an opportunity to talk about leadership and meet individuals who've been there, done that, and continue to serve, coach, and transform the lives of leaders and everyone that they come in contact with. And today is an honor of honors, as our special guest is Mr. Chris Robinson, Executive Vice President with the Maxwell Leadership Team. And I know, Mr. Robinson, that's not the exact title, but welcome, my friend. And I'm going to give you a chance to do yourself justice more than I could and make an introduction.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me on. It truly is an honor and privilege to be with you. Know, John Maxwell says, hey, a good introduction won't help a bad speaker. So, we don't have to go on and belabor it. And, but I love what I get to do as Executive Vice President of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. I've been inside of that role for just over 5 years. And each and every single day, we certify coaches, speakers, and trainers all around the world, over 58,000 worldwide that we've helped go through that process. And it's just been an honor. I started out as a member back in 2011 as one of the very first to be certified by John. I built a business utilizing the tools and resources that they gave me, and then eventually they asked me to start teaching some things, and one thing led to another, and here I am today, getting to add value to people. So I love what I get to do.
Well, and I can speak from experience for the past 4.5, almost 5 years as a Maxwell certified coach, trainer, and speaker, and the opportunity to listen to Mr. Robinson each Monday and in special webinars that he holds on leadership and business building. The passion and the heart comes through so naturally in that regard. And, Mr. Robinson, we have an opportunity to get to work with so many vast types of individuals with diverse experiences in the United States, but around the world. And many times individuals may look and say, wow, you've just been able to swing the bat and hit a home run every time. And that's probably the farthest thing from the truth. And I know you've shared a number of times. And one of the great things I love about listening to Chris Robinson is the open vulnerability that he shares in such a natural way, which is so encouraging for individuals such as myself who struggled a bit with inferiority at times and wanted to stay close to the vest in that regard. But Mr. Robinson, you've had some lessons learned that have brought you to this point in your career as well.
Yeah, absolutely I have. I think we've all dealt with that at some point in our life of wanting to hold it close to the vest and not letting people see our flaws. But what happens is when we don't let people see our flaws, success creates a gap. And so if at all possible, I always want to talk about the ugly. Because, failure is a connector. All right. You heard the phrase misery loves company. Well, could be more true. But when you only talk about success, you create a gap and you kind of put yourself on a pedestal. And one of my biggest fears is being somebody different on stage than I am in person when you meet me. So I always want to try to keep that gap close and always be who I am at all times. And, that closest to the vest. I mean, like I said, we've all done that before. And then what that does, though, is it really puts us into sometimes an imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And we get imposter syndrome when our need to impress is greater than our need to progress. We have it when our need to impress is when our need is greater than to progress. And so for me, I've just learned that, hey, I want to be a continuous learner. I want to be okay with asking dumb questions. I want to be okay with just being honest and not getting it right and saying, hey, I never heard of that before. I don't know it all. I'm still learning and growing. And so as long as you keep that learner's mindset, I think that being open and vulnerable is one of the best things that you can do.
You hit upon a very good point, and I want to reflect just back a moment. John Maxwell wrote a book a couple of years ago, The 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. It may be the very first law, the law of credibility. And right in that opening page of the chapter, I see it so clearly. It talks about the best message that we can have is the one we live, basically
I,
each and every day. And Mr. Robinson, when I think of you and listening and learning from you for the past 4 years, I think you represent that message in true life form better than anyone I've ever met.
wow. Well, and I appreciate that. But again, it's me following a model. I've had the privilege of meeting, a lot of great speakers, authors from all around the world, some of the top names, and many of those people on those books behind you right there. And, sometimes we read those books and we're like, oh my goodness, I love this book. But then you meet the person and you're like, well, I like the book. And I've been fortunate to be around John Maxwell as a model and see him model that closing of the gap. John is the same person on stage as he is in person. In fact, the more that I've got to know him over the last decade off the stage, the more and more that I like him. And that's the way that I want to live my life as well, too, is that, hey, the more that you really get to know me, the more that you really like me. It's not just a presence on stage. And so, but John's modeled that so well that I'm just grateful to be able to have such great proximity to him and how he's lived his life.
When you go back, Mr. Robinson, to the younger Chris Robinson and this whole thing about leadership and being a leader and your opportunity to serve and coach and transform the lives of others, when did you first recognize that you had that desire, that passion, or that skill set?
Yeah, it came in my early 20s. Now, in my teenage years, there was a window, I'd call it from about maybe 16 to 21. I was a train wreck. I mean, when I say train wreck, I mean, I was a mess. By age 21, I had two DUIs, and I found myself in front of a judge. And in fact, not only had I had two DUIs, but I had got kicked out of college 6 times in a year and a half. Now I know you're going, well, how in the world did you get kicked out 6 times? The better question is, how did I get back in 6 times? I had an undeveloped skill set, at that time. But going back in there, I was sitting in front of a lawyer one day, Judge Pelican, and I had got kicked out of college. I had went and started selling perfume and cologne on the street. I had figured that didn't work out. And then I ended up going back to a community college. And in that community college, I got an internship and I actually was able to get my financial planning license, a Series 7 as a stockbroker by age 21. But I was still pretty wild and out there and really just, I didn't really think that I was going to live a very long life. I mean, I thought that I was going to be just like the judge had told me that day when I showed up for the second DUI. He said, Chris, you're either going to be dead or in jail with the path that you're going down. And he wasn't wrong, and I wasn't disputing it at all. Those were the two paths I was going down, and I was okay with it. And he says, Chris, he goes, you passed the Series 7. You've been kicked out of college, but you've passed the Series 7. He goes, that's not an easy test for well-developed people, well adults to be able to pass. He goes, and you did that at such an early age. He goes, you're not a dumb kid. He said, so here's what I'm going to do. He says, I'm going to give you everything possible to prevent you from drinking except for jail. So I'm going to send you, you're going to do community service. You're going to go to SATOP. You're going to get a blow tube device on my car where I had to blow into a tube for it to start, and it would randomly test me, throughout there. I'm going to give you probation. I'm going to, everything that he could, he gave me. He said, I'm going to give you a fine. I mean, everything that he could except for going to jail. He says, because I don't believe that you're a stupid kid. He goes, but if you don't make the change in life, you're going to be dead or in jail. That was a wake up call, during that time. And I wish that in that moment I had just quit and I had went a different direction. But yet I kind of I tapered it back just a little bit. And then I began to, I still was out partying, drinking, hanging out. And then there was another opportunity. I wasn't driving that night, but my girlfriend, wife at the time, wife now, is was driving, and we get pulled over by police officers. And in that moment, I'm sitting on the curb with my hands behind my back in handcuffs, and I'm going, just like Pelican said, I'm going to jail. This is it. Now, in that moment, something miraculous happened. There was a friend of my wife's sister that was a police officer that heard her name being called over the intercom system, and the police officer told the officer on site, hey, let them go, let them get a ride home. And then from that point, I made a conscious decision that, man, something's got to change. All right. And, from that day, from that time, I believe that was in 2001, I haven't had a single drip of alcohol since then. And quitting that lined me up to get into find an opportunity at a job that I had got connected with through my church that I was attending at the time. And, that led to me getting an opportunity that was greater than anything I had before. I had walked into this gentleman's office because we were friends with his wife, that they were going through a divorce at the time. And we were just friends with her, and she was very well to do. And she says, well, hey, me and my husband are getting back together. You guys have been so kind to me. My husband wants to give Chris a job. Well, I go there and, he says, well, hey, look, you've been nice to my wife. I'd love to give you a job. He says, if you're good at this, you'll make between $8,000 and $10,000 a month. He goes, if you're bad, you'll make about $6,000 to $7,000 a month. Now, you got to keep in mind here, that previous year, I had just made a solid $19,282.33. And this man was talking to me about making $10,000 in a month. And I'm looking around the room like, what in the world are you talking about? Well, I took on that job, and I had took it more seriously than any other thing I had done. And in that very first month, I made $10,000, and the success began to come from a financial standpoint. But something special happened, because in order for me to stand out from the other sales reps, I knew that I had to do something different. And so what I began to do is, our church at the time was offering a course by John Maxwell on VHS. And so I began going, watch John Maxwell on VHS in the basement of this church. I began to come back to the workplace, apply these principles, and I began to understand that leadership is influence. And if I could work on developing myself and developing others, oh man, maybe I could rise. And so that's when I got serious about it. So I was about 21, 22 years old when personal growth just took a radical grip on my life. Been growing ever since. I love it.
Thank you for sharing, my friend. We're all better for the growth focus that you've had, and what an inspiration. And building a little bit, you mentioned your experience with your wife and the opportunity because of the connection she had at that point in time. You lead not only with the Maxwell team and those the rest of us blessed by God to have the opportunity like this to get to hear from you, but you do a wonderful job as a father and supporting that. And you and I were talking off camera about experiences with baseball. Just share some of maybe one or two leadership growth opportunities you've had from the family aspect that you feel
Yeah.
really helped you grow and mature.
Well, we're growing in that every day. We have a large family. We have 6 children. We've got 16-year-old triplets. And so they're driving now. And so that's a whole new world. I've got a 12-year-old single, and then I've got 9-year-old identical twin girls. And so every single day we're learning a lesson because we're in 3 different phases of life with each of them. And it's just an incredible journey. But it's been intense, for every single season because there's so many of them and because they're going through those different phases. And people ask me all the time, well, Chris, what's the hardest phase as a parent? And does it get easier? And the answer is I haven't figured out where it gets easy. It just gets different. It just gets different, from each one of the seasons. And so a lot of first times that are happening for us with them driving, with the twins, interacting with one another, with David playing, sports on his own. We have my oldest daughter and son are in cross country, so we're always traveling for them to run their meets. And so it's just one of the things that I say, if I had to say a lesson that I would give to people is that, in pursuit of your call, your dream, or your passion, or your career, build your career or business around your family, not your family around your career. And so we made a very conscious choice very early when the triplets were first born, that as I was pursuing this business, that I wouldn't go out chasing the road, which is very difficult for a speaker because you have to be on the road. And so I opted to build a business locally by coaching and consulting inside of companies. And then we said, hey, we made a commitment together. Hey, you can go out and speak or go do a consulting deal once a month, but I can't just be on the road weeks at a time. And so making that choice was difficult because I passed up a lot of opportunities and still do to this day, but my family's intact, and, I've built it around them and I'm there for those moments. So I will skip an opportunity to go speak, pass up on thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars to go speak, to go watch a Little League baseball game. Why? Because I won't have that opportunity or experience again. And so, for me, build your family, build your business around your family, not your family around your business.
I love that. Great advice. And we're speaking with Mr. Chris Robinson, Executive Vice President of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. I know the name has changed the past couple of years, so Mr. Robinson will correct me where I misspeak at in that regard. We're hearing a bit about his leadership experience, and we're getting ready to talk in just a few moments about a really exciting time as Mr. Robinson's about to come out with an exciting book. We're going to dive into the title of the book is Drift to Drive. And we're going to talk more about that in just a moment. But Mr. Robinson, before we do, just to get a little more of your expertise, one of the things I find with clients or individuals when I am out training or coaching is the struggle, in particular at the front line or the middle management piece in that aspect, where they battle not becoming something that their values aren't or their strengths aren't suited for because of maybe the expectations of the role, if you will, in that aspect. And I've had others in that regard talk about the difficulty in keeping work from becoming their worth. Could you maybe share some words of wisdom from your experiences there for individuals who may be battling that in their leadership career today?
Yeah, when it comes to, I guess, are you saying from the leader that's leading those people, or if you are a frontline person or a middle person?
The front line or middle person.
Yeah, yeah. With the frontline person, and middle person, you got to ask yourself, what is it that you want? What is it that you want? And is this particular role line up with where you want to go? And if it doesn't line up, and I know you got to do what you have to do to get by, but always take a job for the experience, not the income when you're trying to get to where you want to go. I think of an example of, I remember interviewing a young lady that wanted to come to join this sales team. And at that time, I was a sales manager and, I had great six-figure earning opportunities for very young people that didn't require, college education or anything of that nature. We would train them and we would equip them and they'd make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, this lady comes to me and she says, well, hey, I said, well, what is it that you really want to do long term? She says, well, I want to be an airline mechanic. I stopped and I kind of looked around. It's like, well, what in the world are you doing here? I said, well, how is this going to help you become an airline mechanic? She says, well, she goes, if I make the money from this, I can then take this money to go to school to be an airline mechanic, and then I will then be able to transition to become an airline mechanic. Now, I declined to hire her that day and told her I was going to decline to hire her because this job had nothing to do with who she wanted to become. You see, too many times we think that we can just use something as a means to an end, and that actually prolongs you getting to where you want to go. So instead, what I recommend her do, I said, hey, look, I don't care if you have to go take a minimum hour job at something to do with airline mechanics. Get around airline mechanics. Get into some type of online course. Start to read some books on becoming an airline pilot, but do something that lines up with it versus thinking that you can use something completely over here to the left that's going to help you over here to the right. No, just start moving towards the right whenever you want to move in that direction. So I'd say to the front line and middle people, hey, is what you're doing right now lined up with where you want to go? If you're leading frontline and middle people, keep in mind that people aren't coming to the job simply because they love the job. All right. They're coming to the job each and every single day because they have dreams, goals, and visions. And this is a way for them to achieve those dreams, goals, and visions. And so as a leader, it's our job to find out what are those goals, dreams, and visions. And we have to try to create those opportunities for them. So as a leader, what I was always trying to do inside of a corporate setting was I wanted to figure out what is it that they're actually trying to achieve. Are they trying to buy a house? Are they trying to get a car because their car is not what they want? And I would go out of my way as a manager and as a consultant. Hey, this person can't get a car because their credit's bad. Well, hey, let me connect you with this credit consultant. Hey, this person's trying to get a house. Hey, have you spoke with the mortgage person yet? Have you spoke with the real estate agent yet? I'd connect them there. Because if I can help them reach their goals personally, they're going to be more proficient professionally. And so every single day, how are you making things better for your people, not just trying to get them to do what you want them to do?
I love that. Thank you, my friend. And let's shift gears a bit. So the new book, you're a few
Yeah,
months away, just a couple months actually, maybe almost
yeah,
three before it's released. And when I first saw the title, I'm looking and I see From Drift to Drive. I loved it.
yeah,
And then you look at the subtitle.
yeah,
It really, I was a bit surprised at the subtitle, but then as I thought of it, read it a second time, A High Achiever's Guide to Breaking the Chains of Complacency. And then I
yeah.
reflected back, I'm thinking, that's half my career, so to speak, if not all of it.
Right.
Congratulations, my friend. I know you're excited about the book,
I am.
and I've had an opportunity to hear you speak just briefly a little bit about it, but wow, talk a little bit about what
Yeah.
led you to this point to write the book and share this framework.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very excited about this book and about the topic complacency because I think it's the greatest threat. Okay. A lot of people think the greatest threat to their success is failure, and
Mm.
that's what holds us back. But I believe the greatest threat to our future is complacency. Now, again, complacency is a word that's kind of got this, like, oh, I'm not a complacent person. And, it's associated with laziness or apathy,
Mm.
but it's not. I would imagine if you called anybody that knew me personally, they would say and said, hey, is Chris Robinson a complacent person? I'm guessing 99.9 of them would say, oh, no, he is not. He is active. He's a doer. He's going. He's always striving, driving. But let me tell you, I've got complacency in my life, and we all do. And so in the book, I redefine complacency. I give it a new definition. I define complacency as a secret place of satisfactory success. A secret place of satisfactory success. That place where, you're really good at something, and so you really haven't fine tuned it in a very long time. You've done something for a lot of years, and so you really don't have to do a whole lot to get by. It's kind of an autopilot without intention. And so if we look at the original word complacency, the root word stems from, and the definition is careless security. Careless security. So what we're all striving for is to get good enough to be comfortable. And then once we get comfortable and good, like we're okay. We just kind of settle in and things feel good. Things are all right. I don't have to really worry about this. But what we leave is a gap. We leave a gap because we can get good at something, but then we leave a gap between our good and our potential.
Mm.
And that gap between our good and our potential is great. And I'm so excited to help people explore that gap to go from good to great by overcoming complacency.
Well, I'm excited for you, and I'm excited to read the full book. Talk a little bit now, looking ahead. I think the book released September 2nd. Is that correct on the
Yeah,
release
September
date?
2nd.
What
Yeah.
is it you
Yeah.
hope that
Yeah.
leaders and others will be able to take away once they have the book in hand?
Yeah, well, number one is, in the book, I talk about a feature that was added to the roads in the 1950s in New Jersey. And that feature that was added was the rumble strip. Now, the rumble strip helped people from stop drifting into other lanes and creating deaths and crashes. People were drifting because they were so familiar with the road that you kind of don't pay attention. It's like us who drive to an office or a place, and then we get there and we're like, well, wait a minute, how do we get here? We make these automatic decisions. But when they instituted the rumble strip in 1952 in New Jersey, what happened, that little rumble strip in the road created enough alertness to get the person back on track. And so what happened is when the rumble strips went into place, it reduced crashes by 70% on those roads. So my goal with this book is to be a rumble strip for leaders, is to give you that little shake up to get you back on track, to make sure that you're going the right direction. So in this book, I give practical application, I give tools, I give resources, give assessments in order for you to help get back on track and get your fire lit again. That's the goal.
The second word of the book, Mr. Robinson, from drift, kind of hits upon an area that I think I've taken away in my career in life. Not at the time, I wish I had, right? But it's looking back 10, 20, 30 years. It, the word drift kind of says to me that these things happen and sometimes we're not aware it's taking place until we're at
Yeah,
that point of maybe
yeah,
we're miserable or how did I get so off track?
right.
And it seems like it's too big to get our arms around
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, absolutely. Drift is subtle. I mean, it is very subtle, the way that drift happens. I give an example of that, and I share it inside the book, but was drifting in my efforts as a communicator. Each and every single week, I communicate. I speak to hundreds of people every single week. There's not a week that goes by where I'm not delivering some type of communication piece, whether it's a keynote, a webinar, a sales presentation, a teaching presentation. Every single week, I do it. I've done it for well over a decade and a half now, and I found myself drifting about a year ago, which was the impetus of this book. I was with John Maxwell in Cambodia, and I was there, and we were going to speak for 2,500 people, and I had went up there, and I was on stage. John was with me, and things started to go wrong on stage, which is fine because I'm a speaker and things go wrong. The clickers don't work, the slides look a mess. I'm speaking with an interpreter, so there's a rhythm issue there. But I push through all those things and I overcome the average ear. And of course, I have a line of people lined up saying, Chris, your message was so great. Thank you. It impacted me. But then I went to go speak with one of the greatest communicators on the planet right now, John Maxwell. And I'm sitting down at dinner with them, and I did the bold thing, as you should do as you're around, people that are further along the journey than you. And I began to ask him, hey, give me some feedback on my presentation today. And I mean, oh my goodness. You mentioned the 16 Laws of Communication book that he wrote, but we actually wrote it that night at the table because he gave me so many different things to work on. But what happened was there was nothing on the list that I did not know or that I did not do at some point in time. But what happened was I had communicated so many times that I didn't put in the preparation for that specific talk like I did when I first began, like I did when I was going to go speak at a chamber of commerce or a spaghetti dinner at a Rotary Club. And I would spend, countless time working on, each part of the presentation. And what I realized, I went, oh my goodness, I'm in a drift. I'm being complacent. And so what that did was that re-fired me up to go, okay, I've got to break this. What do I need to do? I need to sharpen this gift that I've been given of communication, and I need to get back into the cycle. So I did. I took the 7 steps that I outlined in the book. I got clear on what I wanted. I began to gather and go back to books that I had read in the past on communication. I began to, line up that information and filter it properly. I began to get some guidance. I began being coached by comedian Michael Jr., getting feedback from Roddy Galbraith. to help sharpen me. I began to get around some other speakers to say, hey, what are you seeing? I began to take action on what I was learning from those people. And then we're evaluating. We're taking a look at the video footage and going, how can we tweak this? How can we change this? And that cycle over and over again just truly helped me snap out of that. And it works in any area of life. That's what I love about it.
Well, I love the concept and the title, and Chris Robinson's bringing the book, and we're going to dive further into it. But if you're just joining us, we're speaking with Mr. Chris Robinson, Executive Vice President with the Maxwell Leadership Team, and Chris is about to come out with a brand new book. Is this your first book, Chris? What number book is this for you?
Yeah, this is the first published book, the first intentional book. You know, there's a workbook out there I got somewhere on the planet, but don't worry about that.
You don't want us Googling that or Amazon.
Right. And so, but yeah, this is published by Maxwell Leadership, and the time and intention and the work that we put into this one, couldn't be more proud of it. I think it's, John Maxwell teases us all, you're never good the first time. I'm telling you, this one is good. And so I'm very, very excited about it.
I have no doubt about that. I'm excited, looking forward to it. Chris, why now? Why is now the right time for Chris Robinson to put out his first book?
Yeah, well, it really worked out because I did not have an intention of putting out this first book. How this happened was I went to go work with a consultant and a friend of mine, Rory Vaden. Rory Vaden is a phenomenal communicator. He's a great author, New York Times bestselling author. And I went to go sit in a 2-day consulting deal with him and about 4 other authors. And I didn't have any intention on writing a book. What I was looking for was, hey, how can I get some tools and resources for our Maxwell team members that I think would be good? And, he said, Chris, why don't you just think about something that you would write. And I kind of had a dilemma because, my primary role is to serve Maxwell Leadership Certified members. And, so the easy thing to do would be to write a book that would attract and draw other Maxwell coaches. I said, but I don't really want to write a book on that at this moment to be a first one. So I've got a second audience that, what would that audience be? And I said, well, I keynote speak and I speak for conferences, events, leaders, teams, but I don't want to build one for myself. I don't really want to go out and just build my own Chris Robinson brand right now. And I said, so I've kind of got 2 different audiences. I said, well, I want to serve both audiences at the same time with content that the Maxwell member can go out and utilize with their clients that would serve the end client as well too, but would also be great for the Maxwell member. And so on the first day I had nothing and I just kind of dismissed it and said, I got to make a choice and I can't decide that. Well, I'm sitting on waiting on a bench, waiting for the Uber to come pick me up to take me back over to the office that morning. And then the idea hit me like a lightning bolt because we had talked about the issues, the problems that we wanted to solve. The initial problem that I wanted to solve was underperformance. But then, we sat there and the room was brainstorming. We were like, what's the root cause of underperformance? And the root cause, if we go down to the root, the root cause of underperformance is complacency. And okay, complacency is the root, but how do you overcome that? And what have you done, Chris, to overcome that? So as I'm sitting on that bench waiting on the Uber, I had the whole 7-step framework in about less than 5 minutes. I go into the office, I write this on the whiteboard, and everybody just said, yes, that's it. That's what people need. Nobody's talking about complacency right now, but it is really a problem that's holding people back. And so here we are, jumped into that process, began to write and working with the writer. And I mean, it was amazing how we were able to pull it together. So it's been fun.
Well, what an amazing, great story. And that comes from one of the first things I learned from this gentleman on the screen is to learn a little, do a little, learn a little more, do a little more, right? And that's the
Right.
process you finally have got to that point, right? It's
Yeah,
time to do that
yeah,
little more.
right.
I love that. One of the things in your title I want to come back to, the term high achiever. There may
Yeah,
be individuals out there, we talked a bit earlier in our conversation, Mr. Robinson, about frontline managers, middle
yeah.
leaders, and more and more today, I'm hearing from individuals who never expected to be in a supervisory or leadership type of
Right.
function, whether it's in manufacturing, medical, government, or education. How can this book or this framework help them?
Yeah, and again, the high achiever is not about a role or a title. It's really a mindset. Because I would imagine that most of us have gone further than we anticipated where we would be earlier in our life. If I think back of, where I thought that I would be dead or in jail, I mean, I am living well above and beyond what I had envisioned for myself as a child and from where I came from. Came from a very middle class family, both working at General Motors, and we by no means did we have a ton. We were getting by, and I was just able to live well beyond that. And I think that's when I'm talking about the high achiever. It's really the mindset. It's really the person that's trying to do something. This book is not for somebody that's just not trying. I believe a high achiever is someone that says, "Hey, I can be, do, and have more in my life." And so it doesn't matter the title, the role. If you are trying to go further than you are right now, if you want to go from lukewarm to, back into on fire again in a specific area of your life, this is who this book is for. So it can help anybody, regardless of the industry.
Well said and well defined. I know you also talk a little bit in your book, Mr. Robinson, about action and busyness and ensuring it's the right action. And hey, I am one that's very guilty. You talk about non-value add, getting used to doing something and really being good at it and liking doing it, then stepping back and saying, what's that doing to the end goal we want to have in that regard?
Yeah. Yeah, well that's the thing. People are very busy, but it may not line up with where they want to go. So we have to take action to get to where you want to go, but you also have to know where you want to go. So in the book, I talk about two different types of complacency. And, there's complacency hyperopia. Now, hyperopia is a optometry term for farsighted. So this person can see the big vision. They've got the big vision. They can see it. It's on their wall. It's on their dream board. They've got their vision board up. They've seen this all their life, but they have no idea where to start. They know the big vision, but they just can't start. Then there's complacency myopia. Now, complacency myopia, again, myopia, optometry term for nearsightedness. This person can see the next step, and I mean, they are always busy. They know it. They're busy. They're doing this. One week they're studying hiking. The next week they're studying, podcast. The next week they're studying, cycling, and they are always busy, but they never know where they're going. So the goal is to get that 2020 vision, and this book helps you bring that vision to pass and close that gap when it comes to your vision and the action that you take. And if we can get what we want to line up with the actions that we take, then things can move a lot faster. Because think about this, a lot of people that are watching, I would say that the mass majority of the people listening or watching this podcast wrote out goals at the beginning of the year, or they jotted down somewhere. You have a goal, whether you wrote it down, whether you verbalized it, whether you thought about it, you have a goal that you had at January 1st. Now, if you also have a to-do list and you went and looked back at that for yesterday, okay, now look at your to-do list and look back at your January 1 goals, and chances are they don't match. And the goal, if you want to get results, if you want to move forward, is that your daily to-do list, what you're doing daily, needs to line up with where you say you want to go on January 1. But too often, we have too many different goals, too many different things that we're chasing, and we get confused and we start to drift.
Building on what your last comments were on the drift and the confusion aspect, there are individuals, and again, I'm one that's made this mistake. You look out, you set a goal, and then where do I start at? And the world and the universe just broadens and broadens and gets deeper and deeper in that aspect. Considering your 7-step or your 7 framework pieces, for individuals who may be thinking, wow, 7 frameworks, how am I going to wrap my mind around that piece? Do they all interact, or can an individual look at one area at a time?
Yeah, you can definitely look at one area at a time, but they all work together. And then, if anything, you can short circuit the whole entire cycle by simply doing what you mentioned earlier, is learn a little bit and do a little bit. Okay, so you could get clear on what you want, learn a little bit about it, go do something about it, and then get clear on what you want, and learn a little bit more, go do something about it. And if you take those steps, you can kind of short circuit the process. But If you take all 7 steps and you line those things up, I promise you the result's going to be greater, the speed's going to be greater, because these 7 steps all create an environment in order for you to move in the direction that you want to go.
As you describe the makeup of the book and sharing your experiences, Mr. Robinson, what comes to my mind that I'm hearing is that I'm most excited about a framework to help me move towards excellence in the focal point that really is just one step at a time. Sometimes
Mm.
that step may be backwards when we fail or make those mistake aspects, but talk a little bit about your experience and how do you look at the concept of excellence and then bring it towards your concept and framework.
Yeah, well, when you talk about excellence, I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. I think getting started is better than perfect.
Mm,
And so you get to excellence by moving forward. So
mm.
instead of waiting till everything's perfect because you want to do it with excellence, well, just get started. Because when you get started, now you can look back and go, hey, okay, I can change this, I can tweak this. Because if all you're trying to do is make everything perfect on paper, guess what? When you deliver it, it's not going to come out excellent how you deliver it, how you set it up. Life is going to happen. And so, for me, it's just getting started and then tweak and change things along the way. But you cannot evaluate a result or tweak a result until you actually get a result. So instead of waiting for everything to be perfect, get started, do something, evaluate it, do it again. But you have to detach yourself from the outcome. All too often, what we do, and I talk about in the book, is when it comes to action, is that we peak too soon.
Mm.
And that's peak, that's taking a look. That means that we take a look at the result that we got from the action that we took, and then we make a decision on it. Like, oh my goodness, I just planted this corn yesterday and I'm looking at it today. There's no corn there. This doesn't work. This is a scam. There's no corn here. Well, I don't think that really worked. And if we peak too soon, what happens is we end up leaving seeds scattered all around that we never see the fruit of because we simply didn't take time to stick with it. So don't peak too soon when it comes to action.
I love that analogy and example. What really hits home for me in experiences both that I've lived out in a number of roles, my background, manufacturing and education, it's all about that problem solving process, in the automotive, the 8D, the 5Y that's been brought into other segments, industrial, medical, et cetera. As I reflect back, I'm not sure we ever really ever got to a true root cause, probably because we were peeking ahead in that regard and we got excited about something, right? And then you put something in place, but 6 months later, you had a little bit bigger issue. The machine had a longer downtime. So the bill from the automotive customer, General Motors or Ford, was a lot higher that time in that regard. It can be difficult because of the external pressures that come at you.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. That's correct.
Mr. Robinson, if you think back about the book writing process itself, what's
Yeah.
been the most difficult part for you in getting the book just where you want it so you're just a few months away from release?
Yeah, the most difficult part, I had a phenomenal team, and that's one of the things that they told me, very early on with Rory Vaden. He said, Chris, there's no best-selling author, there's a best-selling team.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, that's phenomenal. So I've seen this work with John. John Maxwell works with this writer, Charlie Wetzel. He works with Linda Edgars, who handles everything. And so I've been fortunate to find my Linda and to find my Charlie. The process has been phenomenal. Rory, again, he gave me a great framework in order to write the book. I then found a phenomenal writer to work alongside me, and then I have a great executive partner that we don't call them assistants, executive partner, because she is not an assistant. She is a partner to me, and I would not get to do what I get to do without her. And we've been able to work together with a team of people, and that's what's really made this process fun and kind of helping me navigate through the process of getting it done. And so I wouldn't say that there's been anything difficult to it. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but if you, I just every day, it's just what's the one thing I need to do today to move that thing forward, and we use the process, the 7 steps to get the book done. I mean, if I really have to look at it, I mean, it's the 7 steps.
So you live the process itself, framework wise, to get it to this point. So as an author, or even as a coach or a trainer, you have an opportunity to bring your experiences as you're presenting here in the book from drift to drive.
Yeah.
But yet it's the individual that has to make the commitment to take where they are in their journey. And each reader, each individual diving into the book is going to be at a different framework spot,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah, correct. And we got a great assessment for that. So we have what's called the complacency assessment profile, and it's okay if I share it. I'll
Oh,
share the link
please
to
do.
it.
I
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
just took it, so
Ah, okay, good.
I've got one in front of me here. So
Hey, there we go. Hold it up for me. Hold it up for me there. I
yeah,
want to
there you
see it
go.
printed out there. There we go. And so this is, a complacency assessment profile. And in this, it's a free quiz. If you go to the number two, drive.com, drift2drivequiz.com, what's going to happen is you'll be able to take this quiz, and then it's going to print out like a 5-page report for you on where you're at with complacency. Not just tell you where you're at, but give you some action steps that you can take in order to help lift yourself out of it. And that's free. That's without the book or anything. You can take that, and I know that'll be of value to
There's
you.
the action steps.
Action steps right there.
I found out that I have what is it, active tension between progress and passivity. So I've got some work to do. Yeah.
Yes, we all do. I love it.
The quiz is fantastic and just top notch, Mr. Robinson. And again, is there something that you wanted to make sure we talked about regarding the book before we wrap up?
No, not at all. I mean, I think we covered a lot of ground in it. I think this book is going to impact a lot of people. I want to encourage everyone that's listening, go out, get the book on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever books are sold. And I know it'll be of value to you. You're going to walk away with action steps, tools, resources to help you get moving in the direction that you want to go. But don't just get a book for yourself. Get it for your friends, get it for your family members. Invest into somebody else's life to help them move along as well.
And the book can be pre-ordered now, correct?
Yeah, sure can. You can get that at drift2drivebook.com, drift2drivebook.com.
I already have my copies ordered, and I'm excited and looking forward to getting a chance to read it front to back because I know it's going to be phenomenal because this individual on the screen, Chris Robinson, is just a phenomenal human being, leader,
Well, thank
a child of God, and just so impactful just to take a few moments. And Mr. Robinson, before I let you go, again, this is such an honor. I don't want to let you go. We could spend the
you.
rest of the day and evening talking. But the Cardinals do have a game tonight you might want to catch.
Yes,
You've got a son
yes.
playing out of town you want to watch. What's one piece of advice for young leaders or individuals just starting out that when you look back over your life and what you know today, you would offer them?
Yeah, if I had to go back, I think about, I was hosting my very first conference and I was 31 years old. And I remember walking with a couple of the speakers and one of the guests, and there was like a 21-year-old that was there. And the gentleman said out loud, he goes, "Man, I wish I was 21 years old when I had started getting into this personal growth stuff." And I said, "Yeah, me too." And I go, "Wait a minute." Here I am hosting the event, the conference, but it was because I started that personal growth at 21 years old. I started listening to audios and tapes at the time and watching videos and going to conferences and events. And if I could say anything to anyone at any age, is start getting intentional about how and where you want to grow. And when you begin to do that, you begin to invest in yourself, more in yourself than you do on your job, you will always be ready to rise and be promotable on your job. So let's get out there, take some action, and let's get to growing.
Well said, my friend. How about you? What's your next action for growth? What's
Yeah,
ahead? What's your challenge?
Yeah, so next action step for me is, of course, selling this book. It's one thing to write the book, but you got to do the big task of selling the book. And so each and every single day, I'm doing podcast, I'm doing promotions, we're going out speaking live. And so my focus for this time is adding value to people every single day and trying to get this book in the hands of people because I know that I know with every fiber of my body that this is going to help a lot of people.
And Mr. Robinson, individuals who will get the book and would just love to say thank you or to offer some insight, how can they reach you? I know you're on social media, but what's the
Yeah.
best way they can reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach me on chrisrobinsonspeaker.com, chrisrobinsonspeaker.com. Of course, on Facebook and LinkedIn are the two places I hang out. So send me messages there, and we'd love to connect with you.
My friend, again, it's an honor to have this time with you. Thank you for all you've
Thank
shared, and
you.
God bless you for all you do. And our prayers are that the book reaches the people and the messages that you have set out for it to do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Truly an honor.
And thank you for watching. And I know you're just going to love the book and this man. If you're not following him, if you're not a Maxwell member, look into it, because Chris Robinson is an example of just a fantastic team. There's a number of other individuals, but Chris does a wonderful job, and he's there. And you've heard the passion and positivity, and that's what Maxwell Leadership stands for. God bless you all. We love you as children of God. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us on Leadership Synergized. A huge thank you to my guest, Mr. Chris Robinson, Executive Vice President of Maxwell Leadership. Be sure to check out his powerful new book, Drift to Drive, a high achiever's guide to breaking the chains of complacency. If you found value in today's episode, share it with a fellow leader, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an opportunity to grow.